food is very essential, right, for us. So food gives us energy, food maintains the body, metabolism, and so many things. So you would have got an idea today what is the topic. So it is related to food and for the crop production and management. So who produces the crops? So how do they manage? And all these things in detail we are going to talk about in this video. So this is your textbook pic. You'll be well familiar with Bojo and Paheli, right? So Bojo wants to know that khurpi, sickle, shovel, plow and all these things are used in field. So why do they use? Because the farmers use these tools and equipments for the crop production. So plants can make their own food, right? All the living organisms require food, but plants can prepare their own food by themselves. So what about humans and animals? So they can't make their own food. So what happens to them? So they depend on others for their food. So as we know, energy is utilized by the organisms for carrying out various body functions. So what are the different body functions actually? They are digestion, respiration, excretion and all those things. So what are the sources of food actually? The sources of food comes from plants, animals or both. So Bojo has a doubt again. How can we provide food to large number of people in our country? Because India has a vast population. So Paheli tells food has been produced on a large scale for a larger population. So there's regular production, there's proper management and distribution is also being done. So for the first subtopic, which is agricultural practices, we should know some history of agriculture, right? I'll tell you now. Till 10,000 BCE, people were nomadic. What do you mean by nomadic? Means they were wandering here and there. They were going in groups from place to place in search of food and shelter. What did they eat then? They ate raw fruits and vegetables. And they used to do hunting of animals for food. So what did they do later? They later started cultivating land and produced rice, wheat and other food crops. Thus was born agriculture. When plants of the same kind are cultivated at one place in a large scale, so that is called as crop. I'll repeat it. When plants of the same kind are cultivated at one place on a larger scale, it is called a crop. For example, crop of wheat means that all the plants grown in a field are that of the wheat itself. So you know that there are variety of crops, right? So they could be cereals, vegetables, fruits. So these are classified based on the seasons they grow. India is a very vast country. So the climatic condition like temperature, humidity and rainfall vary from one region to another. Accordingly, there's a rich variety of crops grown in different parts of our country. So it's been classified into two broad ways of cropping patterns. I'll tell you now. So they are the Kharif crops and Rabi crops. What do you mean by Kharif crops? The crops which are sown in the rainy season are called Kharif crops. So when is the rainy season in India actually? From June to September. Paddy, maize, soya bean, groundnut and cotton are the Kharif crops. I repeat it once again. The crops which are sown in the rainy season are called as the Kharif crops. They are grown generally during June to September, which is the rainy season. Paddy, maize, soya bean, groundnut and cotton are Kharif crops. So then what do you mean by Rabi crops? The crops grown in the winter season. The months are October to March. So example of Rabi crops: wheat, gram, pea, mustard and linseed. So besides these, pulses and vegetables are grown during the summer at many places. So Bhojo is asking now, why can't we grow paddy else not in the winter season? So paddy requires a lot of water. So it is grown only in the rainy season. So basic practices of crop production. So cultivation of crops involves several activities. So farmers actually work really hard over all the period of time. You may find that these activities are really similar to those carried out by the gardener. So when you have a small garden, so whatever the activities you do with the ornamental plants in your house, so in the same method, the farmers also grow the crops. So there are so many activities, so let us come to know now what are they. The agricultural practices are preparation of the soil, sowing of the seed, adding manure and fertilizer, irrigation, protecting from weeds, harvesting and the storage of grains. So these are very, very important. So firstly, moving on to the preparation of the soil. I'll move on to the next slide. So for a quick recap, crop. When plants of the same kind are grown and cultivated at one place on a large scale, it is called a crop. So types of crops, we have kharif crop and rabi crop. Kharif crop, the crops which are sown in rainy season are called kharif crops: paddy, maize, soya bean, groundnut, coconut. Rabi crops are grown in the winter season. Examples: wheat, gram, pea, mustard and linseed. Moving on to the next slide, the basic practices of crop production. Preparation of the soil, sowing, adding manure and fertilizers, irrigation, protecting from weeds, harvesting and storage. So first step, it is the preparation of the soil. So for the preparation of the soil, the most important task in the agriculture, what do? They loosen the soil. Why we have to loosen the soil? So that the roots can penetrate deep into the soil. So when the soil is loosened, the roots go deep down and they breathe really well. So loosening up the soil helps in the growth of the earthworms and microbes too, which are present in the soil. These organisms such as earthworms and microbes are called as friends of farmers. Why? Because they help to loosen the soil and they add humus to it. So but why the soil needs to be turned and loosened? So in many lower classes you would have learned that soil contains minerals, water, air and some living organisms. In addition to that, when some plants die and animals too, they get decomposed by the soil organisms. So in this way what happens? The various nutrients in the dead organisms are released back into the soil. So these nutrients are again absorbed by the plant. Since only a few centimeters of the top layer of soil supports the plant growth, so the topmost soil is loosened so that the rich nutrient in the soil can be absorbed by the plants. So turning and loosening of the soil is very, very important for cultivation of crops. The process of loosening and turning of the soil is called tilling or plowing. I'll repeat it for you. The process of loosening and turning of the soil is called tilling or plowing. So how do they do it? They use a plow. So plow is an instrument made up of wood or iron. If the soil is very, very dry, so it needs to be watered before plowing. The plowed field may have big clumps of soil called as the crumbs. So it looks like rock, but it is actually soil. So that has to be broken down. It is necessary to break these crumbles and leveling the field. Why? Because it is very helpful or beneficial for sowing the seed as well as for irrigation. Leveling of the soil is done with the help of a leveler. Sometimes what happens? Manure is added to the soil before tilling. This helps in proper mixing of manure with the soil. The soil is moistened before sowing. So for a quick recap, preparation of the soil is the first step in cultivating a crop for food production. So there are 3 steps. First one is ploughing. The process of loosening and turning the soil is called ploughing or tilling. It is done with the help of a plough or a cultivator attached to the bullocks or a tractor. So second is leveling. The ploughed soil is quite loose, so it is liable to be carried away by strong winds or washed away by rainwater. So soil erosion can happen, right? So thus the ploughed soil is leveled by pressing it with a wooden or an iron leveler so as to prevent soil erosion. Manuring. Manuring means adding manure to the soil. Sometimes manure is added to the soil before ploughing. Addition to manure to the soil before ploughing helps in proper mixing of manure with the soil. So manure helps in the better yield and the crop will grow really well. I have a video for your students, so please do watch it.
Crop production and management. Learning about cultivation of crops and several activities undertaken by farmers in crop production and its management. Basic practices of crop production. Cultivation of crops involves several activities undertaken by farmers over a period of time. These activities or tasks are referred to as agricultural practices. They are as follows: preparation of soil, sowing, adding manure and fertilizers, irrigation, protecting from weeds, harvesting, storage. Preparation of soil. The preparation of soil is the first step before growing a crop. One of the most important tasks in agriculture is to turn the soil and loosen it. This allows the root to penetrate deep into the soil. The loosened soil helps in the growth of earthworms and microbes present in the soil. These organisms are friends of farmer, since they further turn and loosen the soil and add humus to it. The process of loosening and turning of the soil is called tilling or ploughing. Ploughs are made of wood or iron. Before ploughing, soil needs watering. The ploughed field may have big piece of crumbs which has to be broken with a plank. The field is leveled for sowing as well as for irrigation purposes. Agricultural implements. Before sowing the seed, it is necessary to break the soil to the size of grains to get better yield. This is done with.
So you watch the video now, students. So I have a small little exercise for you. So please do the fill in the blanks and answer the following questions and send me through WhatsApp. Thank you so much for joining the class. Have a good day.